I remember the moment my parents told me not to overreact. It was like they were rehearsing a line they'd used all my life, calm, dismissive, dripping with superiority. This time, though, it hit harder. Because what they were telling me not to overreact about was them choosing a Hawaii resort vacation for my brother without inviting me. Not because I couldn't go. Not because I had done anything wrong. But because, apparently, he deserved it more. That's when I realized my family didn't just play favorites. They celebrated them. I grew up in a house where fairness was treated like a suggestion, something nice in theory, but optional in practice. My brother Ethan was the golden child from the moment he could string a sentence together. He was loud, impulsive, and dramatic, the kind of kid who threw tantrums in grocery aisles and got rewarded with candy so he'd stop. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one. The helper. The problem solver. The mature daughter who didn't need attention because I understood how hard parenting was. That line, "You understand, Christine," became my emotional leash. Every time I needed something, my parents would remind me how understanding I was, how proud they were that I never caused problems. It took me years to realize that understanding was code for "you don't get to complain." When Ethan wanted a car at 16, my parents pulled money from their savings and surprised him with a used Jeep. When I turned 16, I got a framed family photo with a handwritten card that said, "We're so proud of you for being independent." Independence, another word that sounded flattering until I saw how it really meant "we'll handle his needs, you handle yourself." Ethan was always the one getting bailed out, late on rent? Mom and Dad paid it. Failed a semester? He's finding his path. Got fired? The job wasn't right for him. Meanwhile, if I so much as hesitated about overtime or said I felt burnt out, I'd get the lecture about being grateful you even have a job in this economy. By the time we hit our 20s, Ethan had bounced through 3 colleges and 4 jobs. I had graduated early, paid off my student loans, and was working steadily as a nurse practitioner, yet somehow, the family spotlight never left him. Every holiday, every dinner, every phone call, somehow it always circled back to Ethan. His potential. His next steps. His breakthrough. I'd be sitting at the same table, having just pulled a double shift at the hospital, and my mom would look across the room and say, "Christine, you must be so proud of your brother. He's really getting back on track." Getting back on track from what, exactly? The same track he derailed every 6 months? I learned not to argue. Arguing only made me sound bitter. And bitter daughters get labeled jealous. Then came the Hawaii conversation. It started casually, like most emotional ambushes do. My mom called on a Thursday night, voice bright and syrupy. "Hey sweetheart. Guess what? We're thinking of doing something special for Ethan's birthday this year." I smiled automatically. "That's nice. What's the plan?" "Oh, nothing huge," she said, her tone deceptively light. "Just, maybe taking him somewhere to relax, you know? He's been under so much stress lately." Stress? The man hadn't held a job longer than a TikTok trend. But I bit my tongue. "Where are you thinking?" She paused just long enough for it to sound rehearsed. "Hawaii. A resort on Maui, actually. All-inclusive. We found a package deal online and thought it'd be fun for him to unwind." I waited for the part where she said, "and you too." But it never came. Instead, she added, "You probably wouldn't be interested anyway, right? You're always so busy with work." That line, the one that made it sound like my success was an excuse to exclude me, cut deeper than I expected. I laughed it off, but my chest felt tight. "You're going without me?" She hesitated. "Well, honey, it's just for him. Kind of a reward, you know? He's been going through a lot emotionally." Emotionally. That word again, the magic shield for his consequences. I didn't say much that night, but I remember staring at my phone long after the call ended. The idea of them lounging in a Hawaiian resort, sipping cocktails on a trip they chose for him while I sat home working 12-hour shifts to keep my life together, it was the clearest picture of their priorities I'd ever seen. The next morning, Dad texted me, "Don't take it personally, kiddo. You know we love you. We just want to help your brother get back on track." That was their mantra. Their way of justifying everything unfair. But what got me wasn't the trip, it was what came after. Because when I finally tried to tell them how hurt I was, that's when they hit me with the line that broke something in me for good. Christine, don't overreact. When my mom said those 3 words, don't overreact, it wasn't even loud. It was calm. Polished. Like she'd been saving it for the perfect moment to shut me down. It happened the weekend after the call. They invited me over for dinner. It was supposed to be casual, pasta, salad, a bottle of wine. But I could tell something was off the moment I walked in. Ethan was there, of course, sitting at the table with that smug, lazy grin that somehow made him look both clueless and triumphant. The TV was playing some travel vlog, shots of turquoise water, palm trees, ocean waves. I didn't even need to ask. So, I said, forcing a smile. You guys really going through with the Hawaii thing? Dad looked up from his plate. Yeah. We booked it this morning. It's a great deal, flights, resort, meals, everything. Wow, I said softly. That's nice. Mom must have sensed the shift in my tone because she jumped in, quick and defensive. Christine, honey, this isn't about excluding you. It's about giving your brother a break. He's been through a rough patch lately, and he needs some positive energy around him. I stared at her, trying not to let my voice shake. Mom, I've been through rough patches too. I just don't broadcast them because no one's ever offered me a tropical vacation to fix them. Her fork clinked against her plate. That's not fair, Christine. You know we've always supported you. Really? I said, finally letting the sarcasm through. Because I must have missed that support while I was paying my way through college, working double shifts, and helping you guys with bills when Ethan was unemployed, again. Ethan leaned back, arms crossed. Oh, here we go. The martyr speech. I turned toward him, my voice cold. I'm not a martyr, Ethan. I'm just tired of watching you crash and burn while everyone rushes to build you a softer landing. Mom's eyes hardened. Christine, you're making this into something ugly. We just wanted to do something nice for your brother. That's exactly the problem, I said quietly. You only want to do nice things for him. Dad sighed, setting down his fork. Christine, you're overreacting. And there it was. The line. The eraser they used to wipe away every justified feeling I'd ever had. Overreacting? I repeated, my voice trembling. I'm telling you that it hurts to be treated like an afterthought by my own parents, and your response is that I'm overreacting? Mom tried to soothe it over with that fake calm tone, the one that always made me feel like a child throwing a tantrum. Honey, don't make this about emotions. You're so successful, so independent. You don't need us to do things for you the way Ethan does. I laughed bitterly. You're right. I don't need you. But it'd be nice to be wanted sometimes. That silenced the room. For a brief second, I thought maybe it got through. Maybe this would be the moment they'd realize how cruel it sounded. But then Ethan muttered under his breath, God, you're so dramatic. I snapped my gaze toward him. You know what's dramatic, Ethan? Living your whole life like you're the sun and we're just supposed to orbit around your screw-ups. Mom gasped softly. Christine. No, let her talk, Dad said, sounding more tired than angry. Clearly, she's been holding this in. You think? I said sharply. You've been holding his hand through every mistake he's ever made, and the one time I express disappointment, I'm suddenly hysterical. That's what this family does, right? Reward chaos, punish composure? The words hung in the air like smoke. Dad rubbed his temples. Christine, you're blowing this out of proportion. This isn't some big betrayal. It's just a vacation. That's the thing, I said. It's never about what it is. It's about what it represents. Every small thing adds up until you realize you've been sidelined your entire life. Mom stood up, looking more flustered than I'd seen her in years. We can't talk to you when you're like this. I stared at her. Like what? Honest? She sighed, exasperated. You're too emotional. You always take things personally. And there it was again, the perfect combination of invalidation and guilt. I pushed my chair back and stood. My hands were shaking, but my voice came out steady. You know what's funny? You keep telling me not to overreact. But maybe if you actually reacted, at all, to how your actions affect me, I wouldn't have to. No one said a word as I grabbed my purse. The silence was deafening. Before I left, I looked at my parents one last time. I hope Ethan enjoys Hawaii. You picked the perfect person to spoil, someone who'll never appreciate it. And then I walked out. I drove aimlessly that night, tears blurring the road. I wasn't angry anymore, I was empty. It wasn't about Hawaii. It wasn't even about Ethan. It was about the years of small dismissals that piled up until love started to feel like a one-sided obligation. By the time I got home, I'd decided I wasn't going to beg for fairness anymore. If they wanted to exclude me, fine. But I'd make sure they saw exactly what they'd lost when they chose convenience over character. That's when I started planning my own version of Hawaii. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Mom. "We didn't mean to upset you, sweetheart. Let's all just cool off for a bit." That was it. No apology. No accountability. Just a diplomatic way of saying we're done talking about this. I stared at the message for a long time. My chest ached, but not from anger, it was something deeper. A quiet kind of grief. Like I'd lost a family I thought I had, and the one I actually had was colder than I'd ever realized. For the first few days, I went through the motions, work, errands, pretending nothing was wrong. But underneath it all, the resentment simmered. Every time I saw a travel commercial or heard someone mention the beach, I felt that sting again. They hadn't just excluded me from a trip. They'd excluded me from being part of the family's joy. By the end of the week, I decided I wasn't going to sit around feeling sorry for myself. My parents wanted to treat Ethan like the only one who mattered? Fine. I'd give them a show they wouldn't forget. I started planning my own trip, not out of spite, but out of a desperate need to reclaim something they'd stolen, my sense of worth. I opened my laptop, went to the same travel site my mom mentioned, and started scrolling through resorts. I wasn't looking at Hawaii. No, that was their destination. I wanted something bigger, bolder, more breathtaking. Then I found it, a resort in Bali. Beachfront villa, private pool, panoramic ocean view. It was twice the price of their Hawaii package. And when I saw the pictures, something inside me whispered, this is it. I didn't hesitate. I booked it for the exact same week they'd be in Hawaii. But that was just step one. See, revenge doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to scream. The best kind of revenge is quiet, graceful, and impossible to ignore. I didn't tell them anything. I just started subtly dropping hints online. An Instagram story here, a photo of me packing there. Nothing too revealing, just enough to build curiosity. Meanwhile, Mom kept sending me neutral texts like, "Ethan's so excited about the trip. We'll send photos when we get there." I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on myself, new clothes, spa appointments, a fresh haircut. For once, I was doing something purely for me, without worrying about anyone else's comfort. When the day came for their flight, I posted a simple photo on my story, a passport, boarding pass, and a coffee cup with the caption, "Time to find my peace." Within minutes, Mom texted me. "Are you traveling somewhere?" I stared at the message, smirked, and replied, "Just taking some time off." "You said I've been working too much, right?" She didn't respond. The next day, I landed in Bali, and it was everything I'd dreamed of. The air was warm, the ocean glittered like melted glass, and for the first time in years, I felt free. No expectations, no comparisons, no emotional manipulation. Just me and the sound of waves. I documented everything, not obnoxiously, but beautifully. Sunrise yoga, candlelit dinners, massages by the water. My followers weren't huge, but I posted with intention, like I was telling the world, this is what happens when you stop begging for validation and start creating your own peace. By day 3, my posts started making their way to my family group chat. My aunt commented on one picture, saying, "Wow, Christine. Bali looks amazing." That's when I knew it reached them. Hours later, Mom finally texted. "Are you in Bali? When did this happen?" I let her stew for a while before replying, "Oh, just decided to do something nice for myself. You know, like you did for Ethan." Her typing bubble appeared, then disappeared. Twice. The next morning, Dad called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail that started polite and ended frustrated. Christine, you didn't have to do this to make a point. We just wanted Ethan to feel supported. There it was, the justification I'd heard my whole life. Support for Ethan was always acceptable, but standing up for myself was making a point. I listened to that voicemail twice, then deleted it. Later that evening, I got a DM from Ethan. Nice trip, sis. Trying a little too hard to prove something? I replied, not at all. Just showing everyone how relaxing life can be when you're not constantly cleaning up someone else's messes. He left me on scene. I didn't care. Because for once, my peace wasn't negotiable. Still, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious about how their Hawaii trip was going. So, one night, I checked Mom's Facebook. She'd posted an album titled Family Getaway. Only, the photos didn't look as cheerful as I expected. The weather looked cloudy, Ethan looked bored, and Mom's captions sounded strained, like she was trying to convince herself they were having fun. I actually laughed. Not because I wanted them miserable, but because it proved something. Joy isn't about the location, it's about the company. And if my absence made their trip feel hollow, that was the most poetic revenge imaginable. But the story didn't end there. Because when they got back, that's when everything really unraveled. They came back from Hawaii on a Friday. I knew because I got the usual landed safely text from Mom. No emojis. No warmth. Just factual, like a stranger checking in after a business trip. I didn't reply. By then, I was already home from Bali, tanned, rested, and emotionally lighter than I'd been in years. I'd spent that week meditating, journaling, swimming, and letting go of every ounce of guilt I'd ever carried for being too emotional or too independent. My phone, however, didn't share my peace. The family group chat had blown up the day I posted my Bali sunset video, the one that had gone mildly viral with the caption. Healing isn't isolation. It's refusing to sit at tables where love has conditions. Apparently, that hit a little too close to home. When they returned, I got a call from Dad first. He sounded off. Not angry, more uneasy. Christine, he said, we need to talk. About what? I asked, already knowing. Your post. It really upset your mother. She feels like you were attacking us. I almost laughed. Attacking you? I posted a video about boundaries, not a family exposé. Still, he said, it felt personal. You have to understand how that looks. How that looks? I said quietly. You excluded me from a family trip, told me I was overreacting, and now you're worried about optics? There was silence on the line. The kind of silence that tells you someone knows they're wrong but can't admit it. Then he sighed. Your mother didn't mean to hurt you. I closed my eyes. She didn't mean not to either. He didn't have a response to that. The next day, Mom called. Her tone was lighter, but fragile, like she was walking on eggshells. Hi, sweetheart. I saw your photos. Bali looked incredible. It was, I said simply. You didn't tell us you were going. Didn't seem like I needed to. She sighed softly. Christine, can we stop this? You've made your point. We love you. We just didn't think you'd take things so personally. There it was again, that word. Personally. As if love wasn't supposed to be personal. I'm not doing this to make a point, I said. I'm doing it because I'm done begging to be included in my own family. Christine, she started, but I interrupted gently. Mom, when you said don't overreact, what you really meant was, don't hold us accountable. You can't treat people like they don't matter and then act shocked when they start believing you. Her voice wavered. That's not fair. It's not supposed to be, I said. Fairness was never part of the family plan, remember? Another long pause. Then a whisper, Ethan told me you blocked him. I didn't block him. I just stopped responding to people who only reach out to compete. She sniffed, and I could tell she was tearing up. You know we were only trying to help him. He's still struggling. And I was struggling too, I said, just quietly. And apparently, quiet struggles don't qualify for empathy in this family. I hung up before the conversation circled back to guilt. For the next few days, there was nothing. No calls, no texts. Just silence, the kind that used to scare me. But this time, it felt like space. Then something unexpected happened. A week later, I got an email from my aunt, my dad's sister. We weren't particularly close, but she'd seen my posts. "Christine, I just wanted to say how proud I am of you for taking time for yourself. I've watched how your parents treat you and Ethan for years, and it's never been fair. Maybe now they'll finally see it." That email hit harder than anything my parents could have said. For the first time, someone in the family saw the truth and said it out loud. It turns out, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. A few days later, I got a message from my mom again, this time with a different tone. "Christine, I've been thinking about what you said. You're right. We haven't always been fair. I guess we just fell into old habits. I'm sorry. Maybe we can talk soon?" I read it 3 times. The apology was small, incomplete, but real. I didn't respond immediately. I let it sit. Because forgiveness, real forgiveness, isn't something you hand out just because someone finally realizes they went too far. It's something you earn by changing, not by saying sorry when the silence gets uncomfortable. A few days later, I got another message. This one was from Ethan. "I guess Mom and Dad are feeling guilty. Didn't mean for all that drama to happen. Whatever, though. You win." I stared at that last line, "You win." That's what it came down to for him. A competition. He still didn't get it. I replied with one sentence. "There was never supposed to be a game, Ethan. But thanks for proving my point." After that, I muted the group chat indefinitely. A few months passed, and I focused entirely on myself. I took a photography class, joined a hiking group, and made new friends who saw me as Christine, not the dependable one, not the responsible sister, but just me. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. "Hey kiddo. We're planning a family dinner next weekend. No special occasion, just a chance to catch up. Would love to see you there." Normally, I'd have hesitated. But something in me had shifted. I wasn't going to show up as the peacekeeper anymore. I was going to show up as the woman who'd finally drawn a line. When I arrived, the energy was different. They greeted me warmly, cautiously, as if afraid I might disappear again. Ethan was quieter than usual. Mom looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Dinner was civil, even pleasant. No comparisons, no guilt trips. Just conversation. And somewhere in the middle of it, Mom reached over and touched my hand. "I hope you know we really did miss you in Hawaii." I smiled, but it wasn't a forgiving smile. It was peaceful. "I know," I said. "You just had to learn what it felt like first." She nodded slowly. "We did." That night, as I drove home, I realized something. My revenge hadn't been Bali. It hadn't even been the silence. My real revenge was showing them that I didn't need their validation, and that without me, their little world lost its balance. They thought I'd overreacted. But the truth was, I finally reacted, and it forced them to see what they'd refused to all along. Sitting in my own quiet apartment, I finally understood what freedom felt like. I didn't need their approval, their trips, or their constant reminders that Ethan was special. The Hawaii vacation, their dismissive words, even Ethan's smugness, it all became irrelevant. I had created my own joy, my own peace, and my own life. And that, more than any tropical resort or grand gesture, was the real victory. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's simply showing up for yourself.